Hi guys, Manny the Tidy Sticky Mama here, and today we're going to talk about 5 organizing mistakes and how to avoid them. Organizing seems easy enough, right? You take your stuff, you put it together so that it's neat and easy to find when you need it. Duh. Webster's Dictionary tells us that to organize is to form into a coherent unity or functioning as a whole. Okay, that makes sense. Nothing exists in a vacuum, and the whole idea with organizing is to make it so that your space and your stuff work together. Simple enough, right? But so many people struggle with organizing, and that's because there's a lot of ways to do it wrong. So I'm going to go over 5 organizing mistakes I see all the time and strategies to avoid them so that you can get organized. Number 1 is not having a plan. Honestly, I'm still guilty of this one here and there. Sometimes I just get so revved up about doing something I just jump into it and don't think it through. And it shows. Remember my hall closets video? I had a plan for the first closet, not so much the second. And guess which one actually got done and done well? I was in a little bit of a time crunch with that one, but if I had had a plan for my second closet, it would have gone a lot better, and I would have that closet in much better shape than it ended up being at the end of that video. You don't have to get super detailed about it. Just think of what your main goal or goals are for the project, and then 3 things that you're going to need to do to achieve that goal. And if there's any stuff you're going to need, you need some bins or baskets or drawer dividers or anything, I wouldn't actually go buy any until you've at least sorted your stuff out, because you don't necessarily know what you're going to be keeping together right off of the bat. Now, if you have baskets and bins already, by all means, try to use what you have. Reorganizing stuff doesn't mean you have to go buy a whole bunch of new things, right? Think it through a little bit, and then you'll have a plan of action to enact, and things will go much smoother, and you'll be much happier with the result. Number 2 is over-categorizing. The best way to organize stuff is by category, because keeping like things together makes it really easy to find what you're looking for when you need something and to put it away without thinking too hard about it. And that is the key to maintaining organization, is putting things away. The easier it is to do that, the more likely you are to stay organized. The other advantage is that it's really obvious when things are out of place. But over-categorizing can really hurt your organizational system, because you end up not making very good use of your space. It's like you don't need separate bowls for every kind of fruit in your kitchen unless you have a lot of fruit. Most of the time, one fruit bowl that has apples, oranges, and lemons in it is perfectly fine. Some collections of things are going to need some subcategorizing though. Like if you have kids or you're an avid crafter yourself and you have a large collection of craft supplies, you're going to want to divide that further rather than just having one big giant bin of what looks like a random pile of stuff. Now, some of that is going to be subjective because it depends, 1, on what exactly you have, and 2, on your personal preferences. If you're someone that in general is particular about what color pen you're using, you're going to want to keep your black pens separate from your blue pens, whereas somebody who's not will just keep them all together in one pens category. However, if you only have one black pen, that's not really sufficient to make it its own category. It's easy to become frustrated if you over-categorize things, mostly because a person's space doesn't always allow for that. For example, if you have about a half a drawer worth of sweaters and about a half a drawer of long sleeve t-shirts, you're kind of wasting an entire drawer worth of space by keeping them in separate drawers, where you could keep them together under one category of long sleeve shirts. Make sense? Or personally, in my kitchen, I only have 3 drawers for keeping anything So while I would really like to have my spatulas separate from my stirring spoons or separate from my serving spoons, that's not the case for me. Those are all in one drawer because that's the space I have. So it ends up designated as the used all the time drawer, the used sometimes drawer, and the tableware drawer, because that's just the kind of space I have. Now I am able to put a cutlery tray in the silver or the tableware drawer, which helps me subdivide further, but again, that's a space issue. If I didn't have that sort of space, honestly, I would probably hate that drawer a lot. But that's an example of where subcategorizing makes sense. Putting just a mass of tableware all together so you have to dig through the knives to find a spoon doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you can separate the knives from the forks from the spoons fairly easily. Number 3 is not using zones. This is a little bit related to number 2 in that it's about categories. To have an effective organizational system, you need to not only categorize the stuff, but the space as well so that they work together, right? Functioning as a whole. I refer to this as zoning because it's very much the same way a city plan works. If a lot is zoned commercially, you can't build a house on it. Same as if you have a bin for shoes, you don't go putting hats in it. This also ties into number 1 about having a plan, because if you don't know what you need to do in a space, you're not going to get the best use out of it. We do this on a macro level with our homes. Things related to the cooking or consumption of food go in the kitchen. That's what that space is for. But we need to bring this down from a kitchen to a cupboard level. And this illustration is intentional because we've all known the frustration of having a cupboard that is seemingly just full of random stuff with no connection and no particular order to it. You know what I mean? Or the infamous junk drawer, right? Designating a space for a particular use helps tremendously in creating and maintaining order. Some spaces will by nature need more flexible zones than others. For example, the refrigerator, the contents change day to day depending on what you bring home for groceries that week and what gets eaten. So that's going to need some more flexibility than, say, your dresser. Because odds are the contents of your dresser are pretty much the same any given week, right? Number 4 is overemphasizing where something gets used. This one is counterintuitive, especially considering what I just said. But it is much more effective to keep things together by category, even if where they are stored isn't really where they are used. Especially for things like pens that get used all over the house, it's really better to have one place that the pens are kept and where you know where to find them than to have a couple in the living room, a couple in the kitchen, a couple in your bedroom. It works better because otherwise you end up looking all over the house for a pen because there's lots of places where they should be. And when you don't find one in one place, you just keep roaming around for the next one. And that's not efficient or effective. Just because you use something somewhere does not mean that it's a good place for it to live. You only ever use your car keys in the car, but you wouldn't leave them in there, right? No, because it's not safe to do that. But really, when you need something, you're going to go get it wherever it is because you need it. Having a specific place where things go facilitates doing so efficiently, and that's best done by category. If you get hungry and you're in the living room, you're not just going to give up on getting a snack because the food is in the kitchen, unless maybe you're like 5 or really pregnant. And there's plenty of reasons that having a food stash under the couch is a terrible idea, right? All the food is in the kitchen, you know where to get food, and you know where to put it away. Which, if you're going to focus on anything when you're figuring out where to put things, focus on making it easy to put it away. Because things getting put away is what makes the difference between maintaining order and descending into chaos. So if you focus on the ease of putting something away versus the ease of access to it, it's going to work much better. Number 5 is not taking care of the go bin. I am so guilty of this, it's not even funny. A go box is a fantastic tidying tool, and I will sing its praises far and wide. But if you don't actually make sure that its contents go home, it will bite you. The idea is that by having a bin set aside to put items that don't belong in the space that you're trying to clean up, you're saving yourself time and preventing distraction from happening by not leaving to go put things away one by one as you find them. You can just take the whole box around when you've finished what you're working on and put them away at that point. I like to use a laundry basket because it's made for carrying. They usually have nice handles on them and they're large capacity. With the kids, I tend to have about a laundry basket worth of stuff that isn't where it's supposed to be. If you just let this bin sit there, it becomes a mobile clutter dump, and you don't want that. It will seemingly magically fill up when you're not looking, and then it's just a bunch of crap and you don't even know what's in it, and it gets overwhelming. So just don't. Just don't. Trust me, I've been there enough times to tell you, you don't want any part of that mess. I will often remind myself to take care of the go box by putting it in the doorway of whatever room I'm cleaning up, because then I literally cannot leave the room without acknowledging the fact that I have a box full of stuff that needs to get put away. Obviously, that doesn't actually happen all the time anyway, but it makes it a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, this stuff needs to go somewhere. So there's 5 organizing mistakes and how to avoid them. So go forth and organize. But first, hit that subscribe button for me so you can see my other good stuff on the channel. And let me know down in the comments what your biggest organizing challenge is. I read every single one and I am happy to help out. That's what I'm here for. Bye guys. See you next time.